Hey, this is Jaron Stevenson, and you're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Greetings from Daytona, where a band of dreamers took a strip of beach and turned it into a proving ground. The Great American Race, where year after year, greatness is the destination. So book your experience and soak in 500 miles of history and tradition. Once you arrive, you'll never look back. Secure your seats now at Daytona500.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Roger Hoover, great to be with you from our studios in Tuscaloosa. And yes, I mentioned Thursday, of course, when we have an Alabama football game to preview. All throughout the fall, we have this show on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But now as we move into non-football season, for the most part, don't worry, we're going to talk plenty of football on the show. We will have this show coming up once a week on Thursdays here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network social media platforms. We'll start going through our show with what's coming up and our headlines thanks to our friends RJ Young. RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us a smart board to go through everything coming up in an interactive way. We'll start by hearing from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, DeBoer, on National Signing Day on our Signing Day show yesterday, presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama on all of our Alabama athletics social media platforms. Coach DeBoer joined Roman Harper and myself at the desk at the CTP studios. Great conversation on this signing class coming up from Coach DeBoer. Then we'll take a look back to Monday night's edition of Crimson Tide Rewind. A fun time. It's been just a blast to get to do that show each and every Monday with Corey Reamer at Baumhauer's in Vestavia Hills. You'll see his thoughts from the Iron Bowl, plus we say our salutes to everybody that made Crimson Tide Rewind a very special show this past season. Then we'll take a look back to the comments from Nate Oats last night from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, following a solid victory for the Crimson Tide in the SEC ACC Challenge. What a win for the Crimson Tide against the Tar Heels. We'll have coach's checklist to round out the show. Looking at our headlines, of course, with football, the Crimson Tide winning against the Auburn Tigers 28-14, a fifth straight Iron Bowl victory for the Alabama Crimson Tide. You look at a player like Malachi Moore, who joined Alabama in 2020, never lost to Auburn. Great to see that for Malachi Moore and the seniors on Senior Day. Crimson Tide on Tuesday night, we learned, ranked number 11 in the college football playoff poll and ranked ahead of Miami, ranked ahead as well of the other competitors with 9-3 records from the SEC like Ole Miss and South Carolina. And according to the committee, the data points won't change for the teams that are not playing this weekend like Alabama. So Crimson Tide really in the best shape they can be going into Selection Sunday coming up with the show at 11 a.m. Central Time on ESPN. If you're getting ready for this weekend, root for the SMU Mustangs. That is the main thing against Clemson Tigers. Clemson ranked well behind Alabama and a lot of other teams in the playoff poll. They could steal one of the top 4 spots if they win that ACC championship game. So pony up, getting ready for Saturday. Some other things could still happen as well. Keep an eye maybe on the Boise State game. Georgia, Texas shouldn't impact Alabama too much as we get ready for the SEC championship game. But Alabama, again, in a really good shape, getting ready for that selection show coming up on Sunday at 11 a.m. And then speaking of good shape, Crimson Tide National Signing Day class. The Signing Day class was excellent for the 2025 class. Yesterday ranked in the top 2 or 3 of nearly every recruiting service. More on that, and plus Coach DeBoer's comments on that coming up in a moment. Crimson Tide men's basketball team, of course, last week went 2-1 at the Players Era Festival, had those notable wins against Houston and Rutgers before falling in a very tight championship game to the Oregon Ducks, an excellent team out of the Big Ten. Last night picked up a ranked victory on the road at North Carolina, 94-79. Really, the game wasn't close for most of the contest. Alabama really took care of business well. Unfortunate to see the injury news for Latrell Wrightsell Jr., but the good news is he had successful surgery yesterday in Birmingham, and hopefully he'll be able to redshirt as well. So all the best to Latrell Wrightsell Jr. in his recovery, but even without him, 94 points, an impressive showing against the Carolina Tar Heels. Alabama currently ranks number 10 in the AP poll, and next up, it's a little bit of time off for final exams next week. Creighton game, one of our huge basketball rivals. They'll be coming to town in Tuscaloosa coming up on Saturday, December 14th. That is your next chance to see men's basketball in action. Women's basketball team still undefeated last week, of course, winning the Emerald Coast Classic with wins against Alabama State and Clemson down in Niceville, Florida. Returned home on Monday for the 5th grade fast break. It was loud, and Alabama nearly got 100 points for all the 5th graders. 98-49 the final score against a good Georgia State team that had previously beaten Georgia in Athens earlier this year. Crimson Tide keep climbing in the polls, stayed ranked all throughout the month of November, and now Alabama starts December ranked 19th in the AP poll. Later tonight, it will be Crimson Tide women's basketball on the road in California. 8 p.m. Central Time will be the tip-off against the California Golden Bears. We look forward to that matchup. Our radio start time will be at 7:45 from Berkeley, California. Final notes around Crimson Tide athletics, really some individual honors. Doris Limnole, who we had join us on Hey Coach previously, of course a national champion in cross country. She has been the Honda Sport Award finalist for cross country. You only get one finalist per sport in college athletics for that very prestigious honor, so that goes to Doris Limnole of Alabama. For volleyball, Paris Thompson named the SEC Community Service Team, and then Ryan Williams, now a finalist for the Sean Alexander Award, given to the nation's best freshman, named after former Alabama running back Sean Alexander. So congratulations to Ryan Williams for that honor. Then a couple of final honors for Crimson Tide soccer. Jessica Skorka and Gianna Paul named the All-Southeast Region team by the United Soccer Coaches. So great honors for those student athletes. There are a lot of student athletes that yesterday put pen to paper, making their decision to join the Alabama Crimson Tide in the signing class of 2025. And yesterday we had a full show that is available to watch on demand on the Alabama athletics and football social media platforms. Our signing day special with Roman Harper, presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama. But part of our coverage yesterday included an exclusive conversation with the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer. And we bring that to you now as we get his thoughts on this signing class for the Crimson Tide. And welcome back in studio here at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Roger Hoover and Roman Harper. Now pleased to be joined by the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer, on National Signing Day 2025. Coach, roll tide. Are you excited that this day is here?
Yeah, roll tide. And, this day is earlier than normal, December 4th, usually a couple weeks later. And so it's come fast. It always does. I know we talk about with the prospects, especially the ones that are committed in the summer. We're going to be talking about how fast their senior year is going to go, and all of a sudden this day's here, and here we are.
So, Coach, it's no secret that you guys were behind the 8 ball when you first accepted your job. When Coach Saban left and you come in, the class kind of fell apart. So, since that's happened, what has been the mindset of the guys and the coaches and the recruiting process for you guys on this class, and, how do we build it out?
Yeah, you're right. And there are different levels to what you got to do, right? Number one is identifying evaluation, first of all, identifying the guys that you need to be contacting, and then you're behind on the relationship building. Yeah. There's guys, there's some guys on the West Coast that we have in our class that we had some relationships with just from, coming out from out there. But I think the biggest thing with the mindset was, we got to get our message out. We got to get these guys on campus, and just comparing. And we have some staff that carried over. How many guys we brought with their families. It was kind of an anyone and everyone get to campus, and I think there was 400, 500, prospects along with everyone else they brought with them that came. Spring ball days, practices. I know we were kind of reminiscent earlier today, just thinking about what those days look like and how late in the hours in the evening, midnight, I don't know if it went that long, but 10, 11, you practice earlier in the day and just prospects and just meeting with them and show them around. It was kind of a zoo, because they got their brothers and they got their sisters and they got their little, it's just a lot going on. But getting them to campus, I think, allowed us to open up doors, get the conversations going, them see who we were, feel the vibe around, what the program was, see practices themselves, get to know our players. And then you get into the summer and the OVs and the official visits, that adds to it. One thing I will say that I have to thank our fan base, because the game days were huge. And coming in, these guys getting a chance to see it, feel it, it's a special time for our team, but it's a special time for them to really, prospects get to see, feel what it's going to be like when they put on the crimson.
I got one more. Coach, Clint Dix talked about earlier that the kid that kind of stood out to him was Dijon Lee. And it's because, like, the same thing you talked about, maybe you could share a little bit more of an intimate detail. Was like, it wasn't just his mom and dad. The grandma was here. He's like, I got to know the grandma, the brothers, and the family. Yeah. And like you said, how much of a hustle that was, I don't think we all understand that when you bring him here, you're bringing in people from California that might not have been previously recruited by the former staff. So it's truly their first time here, and it's also your first time here, trying to show everybody so we're all in this learning process together. Does that bring you closer to these recruits in a sense than it does naturally, than what you normally have had to deal with when you've been at places before, and all of a sudden now you're bringing somebody already to where you're established?
Yeah, that situation in particular with Dijon, that goes back 2 years. I mean, I'm just roughly, but maybe even be longer than that. Mm-hmm. He came and visited us at Washington. That relationship with there was other guys. Caleb Edwards is a guy that sticks out in my mind. Jackson Lloyd. We knew who Chuck McDonald was. Mm-hmm. He's a West Coast guy. He had come here actually, had done some evaluation, been to campus before. We were well aware of who he was. And just Abdul Sanders is another one that we had up to campus there. And so there were some relationships, and that's why some of that fell into place, and they were, more than good enough to be a part of our program. And we knew they were going to be really good people that you could, build your class around and be a part of it, because they're great character, they love football and all those things. So, yeah, and then you had to obviously recruit the region and really get to know the people that, were diehard Bama fans from day one when they were yay big, and this is where they wanted to be, and we really dove into that as well.
Coach, what was really the leading focus for you and your team when you started thinking about this 2025 class? How did you get focused on what needs you wanted for this roster?
Well, I think, nowadays, I think you got to recruit across the board. Just with the portal and stuff, you don't know. So you got to really cover all positions. There might be some that you identify where the numbers are low, or you really got to have a high-end guy that can come in. Or, I think a lot of these guys can play early. That's really what the expectation is, I know, on their end too. And we did that with a lot of guys even this last year, played a lot of freshmen. So that's exciting. But I think you recruit across the board, every position. You just got to have that balance. And there was some good balance too, in the program already. But to me, it's about finding the best players you can, guys that love football, guys that got great character, the ones that you really want to be in the fight with, that will fight for for myself, our staff, the team, and the ones that got that work ethic, the ones that show that their goals are supported by action, and that's the love football part. And then they're just driven, and that wouldn't be happening if they weren't driven people.
Coach, we all know the logo, the script A, how big of it is. It's one of the most recognizable brands in college football, if not the most. And now we're in this land of NIL, right? Hot button word. But how do you go about the recruiting process and explaining to these recruits that, hey, like all these things and your possibilities and your potential by coming to Alabama and understanding your possibilities outside of that and what all NIL opportunities were? Like, how do you mix that in? That's just so foreign for me.
I know. Yeah.
And so, like, we used to talk about money. It was all like, shh.
Yeah, right.
But it's no longer that case.
Yeah, no, it's not. And, first of all, there are so many just real stories, real situations that have happened here already. Lank, right? Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I know Walt Brock and Courtney Morgan. Walt's with our head of creative and just oversees a great staff there. But the vision they have, not just for what we're going to put on social media today, or what's the Instagram, all that. There's a bigger vision that they have that aligns with recruiting, aligns not just with our fan base and everything, and that helps with our program too and our guys. And the Lank piece, that whole thing and how that grew. That's one example. You can see even just, let's take this year's team, the New Wave podcast and different things that our different guys are doing, with that. Just the partnerships, I think, that we are forming with different people. It's a combination of, yes, NIL, but I also look at it as, we're preparing these guys for even life beyond their time here. As business people, time that what it's going to look like when they go on to the National Football League, just having to balance all of it. It's already there, so let's embrace it. Let's really, help give them the resources and be supportive of it. Let's not sit back and let's attack it. And I think a lot of these guys, they got really cool personalities. They got great stories, and we're gonna take those and we're gonna put it front and center. And again, these guys, I think, again, need to have the support of us to help balance it all, because what they do on the football field in the end is what's going to be most important, and they're going to help them build on who they are.
You're in line, because I'm here for that. That's the only reason I'm here.
That's right. We're visiting with the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer, here on our National Signing Day coverage 2025, presented by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Alabama. More coming up next from Tuscaloosa. And welcome back to Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Roger Hoover and Roman Harper once again pleased to be joined by the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer. And Coach, you just said in that clip we just heard, we win together. Who are some key winners on your staff that helped Alabama get ready for National Signing Day?
Oh, now this is where I end up leaving all of them out that were really critical, right? I mean, I think, I'd let Courtney, because I know he's coming on here in a little bit, Courtney and Bob. They're really the ones that, are front and center. Provide a lot of the direction for the rest of the staff. Our whole coaching staff, obviously you're coaching a position and you're recruiting to those positions, but they have people with them, right? They have graduate assistant, quality control coaches, but you have a recruiting staff that has, it's just the outline of who they are and what their responsibilities are. It's just done so well. Everyone does their job. I'd highlight, Kerrigan, just she setting up the visits, and how many times I heard that the visit was set up in a way different than other schools, as far as just not just the structure of what it was, but how organized it was, and I mean, you can go on and on. Again, I'm gonna miss on so many people. I'll let these guys talk about, the importance of the staff and who does, what jobs and so well.
Smart play, Coach. Let me tell you, that's exactly why I love your leadership style, which is totally different than what we've had in the past. And that is that you lead by empowering those around you. I get that sense of who you are, and that takes confidence. But the one thing that I would also like to ask you about is that, how do you go about finding those players? Because you've talked about character, you've talked about high-value guys, the things that matter, the intangibles that you're not going to see on a piece of paper or when you cut on the tape. How do you filter those things out? Because myself, and I try not to do this, but I do it every recruiting show, I was just a two-star. But you don't know the end result of who that player is going to be at the end of the day, because whether they're a coach's son or that the things that you can't coach, this kid just has it. How do you see those things, and how do you guys, Courtney and Coach Bob, how do you find that within the recruiting process as you get down to it?
I think it's just work. I think it's experience. The work is cycling through all the film, and we want guys who are coming to this program that we feel would be, NFL draft caliber players, right? Mm-hmm. And that's going to pop off the film. But then there's also, and he was this, so it's not a great comparison, but I'm thinking about Keelan Russell, mm-hmm. And where he is now and how he's seen, and he was already a high level guy. But what we saw in him was some extra special things that he continued to develop this season. And now, of course, everyone looks at him and sees him for who he is and what he's doing this year, with his team and all the accolades he had throughout the summer with the different competitions and stuff. And but you can see the personalities in all these guys, and that takes time spending with them, their families, talking to coaches. You just got to be so thorough. And it's not just one person you're counting on, it's everyone. And then the communication we got to have as a staff, picking up on different things that we hear and really being like, what, that fits who we want, that fits what we're looking for, that fits who we need in this program. These guys are high level, they care, they're going to be locked in. And so many of our guys, when they had their official visits and they knew that this is the place, so many of them shut down their recruiting, didn't go on official visits the rest of the summer because, again, you had the guys that knew what they were looking for.
Well, Coach, I'm going to make sure I put this on tape. You talk about building those relationships with the high school coaches. I got to make sure you get the good relationship with a place called Prattville, Alabama. All right, we're gonna build that relationship.
Right.
We're gonna start building that bridge.
That's
We're gonna
right.
start building that bridge today. All right, Prattville, baby.
Well, Coach DeBoer, thank you so much for the time you've given us. Congratulations on a great signing class for 2025. Best of luck for still what's ahead this season as well for Alabama football. Roll Tide.
Yeah, roll Tide.
Hey, roll Tide. I can say that.
Experience racing like never before. From the sandy beaches of Daytona to the high banks of one of the most exciting super speedways on the NASCAR circuit. Don't miss out as NASCAR kicks off the 2025 season with the Daytona 500 on February 16th, 2025. Witness history in the making and purchase your tickets today at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com. Well, each and every Monday throughout Crimson Tide football season, we have Crimson Tide Rewind, presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health from 6 to 7 p.m. again Monday nights at Baumhauer's in Vestavia Hills. It's an opportunity for us to have a show in Birmingham, literally in the backyard of guys like Corey Reamer and myself. And with that, we have a lot of fans in the Birmingham area that travel to the show, make it a really special atmosphere, and we take calls. It's always a lot of fun. Corey Reamer, great breakdowns of Alabama football, and we will see a sample of that here on the shortened edition for this show, Be Kind Crimson Tide Rewind. We look back at the Iron Bowl, we talk about Alabama's chances for the college football playoff, and we give some shout outs near the end to the crew that's made Crimson Tide Rewind such a fun part of our show experience and really what the network has to offer each and every Monday night here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Corey, Roll Tide. The regular season is done, and now 5 Iron Bowl victories in a row for Alabama.
Yeah, it's great to be on that side of such a streak. I mean, I was unfortunately a part of the last one that was on the other side. So this is always great to get a win when you go against your in-state rival, and especially after, even after 2 seasons that neither team probably were hoping how, turned out how they did. You still got to show up and play this game because it matters a lot to people in the locker room, the staff, the universities, the people across the state. There's a lot of people who are tuning in to watch this game. So to go out there and to get a win is always massive, and there's still implications for postseason play. You don't know what's going to shake out this championship weekend. There's a lot of different scenarios of opportunities for Alabama to at least be in the conversation. With a loss, that doesn't get to happen. So good for them. It was an interesting game. It seemed like things were in hand, but then the score didn't really reflect it. There was a lot of moments of ups and downs. It was a very very different type of game. You couldn't really find the flow of it.
Yeah.
It had a different feel than some of these have in the past 4 years, where there's a lot more on the line. And but it's still a big win. It's not easy to go out there and beat your biggest rival, one of your biggest rivals, across the state.
28-14 was the final score of the Iron Bowl. With the win, Alabama improves to 9-3 on the season. And now, as we'll talk about over the course of this next hour, really the waiting game begins to see what the postseason may look like for Alabama, either in the bowl game or the college football playoff.
Yeah, now you look at, you've seen what's happened in the last 2 weeks across college football. You see, all the losses of teams that were ranked ahead of us. We had opportunities right in front of us, beat Oklahoma, beat Auburn, and you've pretty much secured your spot in the college football playoff. Unfortunately, we fall to an Oklahoma team, and that was just a tough loss. That's a hard one to swallow as a fan right now, because now we're relying on other things to happen that we are no longer in control of, and you hate to be in that spot as a team. I know that locker room's disappointed in that situation as well, and this coaching staff and fans. So we'll see what happens, though. I mean, there's still plenty of scenarios, and I think the committee looking at this Alabama team, the wins that they do have. You got Georgia playing in the SEC championship. Obviously, that was probably our biggest win of the year. What happens when they go out there if they can beat Texas in the SEC championship game? It's hard to argue against Alabama being one of the 12 best if one of your biggest wins is against the eventual SEC champion. So we could probably, and I imagine we're going to discuss more of these down the road in this show today, but I think that there's plenty of opportunities, and hopefully some things shake out the way that they should. I think this is a good Alabama team, and I think that kind of summarizes the season. You've got games that we've played this year where we look unbeatable, and then we've got games where it's like we're real kind of, who is this? Why are we not dominating like the way that we are? How do we, be so hot and cold throughout the year? If we could have put some of these performances together in some of these games that we lost, I think that we'd be sitting in a much better situation. But still got a chance to play in the postseason, which is, what you can ask for at this point.
One tweet coming in from Austin who says, what can help Alabama to get in the college football playoffs? And really, we saw a lot of good things on Saturday. Make sure that Alabama's even now in striking distance getting ready for championship Saturday. Certainly the Clemson loss to South Carolina was helpful. Also Syracuse against Miami was really helpful as well. And then Texas beating Texas A&M and really knocking them out of the conversation also helped this past week.
Yeah, I think the biggest question right now is, after watching South Carolina on the back half of this season, it's a hard argument not to say that they're one of the better teams. They have definitely been playing some really good football leading towards the back half of this season. They're a team that gave us a lot of fits, but I think if you look at that head-to-head matchup, that's going to give us the advantage. There's a big emphasis from this committee on head-to-head matchups, and you look at the final score of that game, I don't think it was not as close as what it ended up being. Obviously, you can't argue against that. They scored 27 points, had a chance to win the ball game at the end. I think we gave them a lot of opportunities with some mistakes that we made, but South Carolina is one that's going to be hard for them to keep out because they are, I think, one of the best. They're a pretty good team right now as well, but in the last 2 weeks, you've seen a lot of teams go down. Texas winning that game handily against Texas A&M. Tough finish for the Aggies after losing Auburn. You turn around and lose to Texas, and you had opportunities to be in the playoffs. But Clemson winning or has a chance to really make some big splash. That's going to disrupt a lot. You don't know what's going to happen this upcoming weekend, but I just feel like that Alabama, with the program that they are, the history that we have, and I don't beat around the bush. I think that the brand recognition of what Alabama is and the conference that you play in, the strength of this conference, plays into a lot of the decisions that this committee is going to make.
And these are really made for TV matchups. A lot of the bracketology you look at has Alabama potentially going to a Penn State, going to a Notre Dame. That's something TV networks would certainly love.
You got to be you'd be licking your chops. Who doesn't want to see Alabama at Notre Dame or Alabama at Penn State
or even Ohio State?
Yeah, I think that'd be something that is, you must watch TV. You're going to turn it on versus some different matchups that could potentially happen as well. But you also want to give credit to a lot of the teams that are really good. But I think the argument's got to be made of who are the good teams. Obviously some records might be better, but it's hard to say that. It's Coach Saban used to say that, he said it a couple of times too. What's the line going to be if Alabama and SMU play? But you got to give respect to these teams. They went out and they had the schedule in front of them. They were able to win the ball games. They took care of business. You can't take away from some of those scenarios. But if I'm anybody that's in this guaranteed a spot in this bracket, I don't want to see Alabama get in because of the fear of having to face us. And so that should tell you a lot that you need to know.
Again, we just have to wait for Alabama football to see the CFP selection show coming up on Sunday morning to see whether or not the Crimson Tide will indeed be in the 12-team college football playoff. Alabama made it to the 14 playoff last year after winning the SEC championship, ultimately falling to Michigan in the Rose Bowl. But hopefully the Crimson Tide will make it back. And Corey, we can have a very fun holiday season, hopefully having a deep run to the playoffs and hopefully another potential national championship.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We'll see what happens. This is the hard part about it is, like we said earlier on the show, it's out of our hands. We'll see what happens on Sunday when the selection committee gets together, all those big brains that decide of who the best 12 teams are. They're going to get an opportunity to play for this championship. But this is the new wave of college football. I think this is going to continue to grow. The postseason is exciting. Hopefully we get a chance to be a participant in it.
As I mentioned before, this is our final Crimson Tide Rewind of the season. Coming up next week at Baumhower's in Tuscaloosa, it will be Hey Coach and the Nate Oats Show, and Nate Oats and Chris Stewart. So we do hope our fans will be able to either make the trip. So many of you who have been so loyal, Johnny Montgomery, this whole crew right here, you guys have been awesome. Joining us each and every week. Want to give all of you a shout out, as well as the Corey Reamer family, who is not here tonight, but usually right there, always cheering us on as well. But
yeah, it's been fun. It's been a fun year. I can't believe we're already at the end of the season, but appreciate all the people that show up every single week to make the environment that we have. Appreciate you guys. This is makes it a lot of fun. It's hard to believe the year's over with, but hopefully it's not. Hopefully
it's not,
you're not going to see us on Mondays, but hopefully the season is not over with. We're, excited about basketball season, but we hope we still get to watch some football games between now and the end of the year.
Absolutely. Huge shout out as well to Todd Robbins, who of course has been our producer engineer on site each and every week. Last week, I know the fans loved when he filled in for me as the host of the show. Did a great job.
As always, absolutely. Let's go, Todd.
Todd, roll tide. Roll tide as well to Jerry Kelly back at our studios. He produces each and every one of these shows. And today is Jerry Kelly's birthday.
Happy birthday, Jerry. Yep. Good way to finish the year, man. Happy birthday. Appreciate all y'all's hard work. It's been a fun year.
It certainly has been a fun year of Crimson Tide football. And again, it's not over just yet. We just kind of have to wait and see what's going to happen for this group. But do want to remind everyone as well, keep up with us with Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR every Thursday at 2 o'clock. Again, Hey Coach, moving to Mondays. We're going to have you covered for whatever is coming for Alabama football. May even get Corey Reamer coming up on Crimson Drive every now and then.
Yeah. Would love to, absolutely.
The fans want it, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's exactly what. They're just excited to see you and hear your voice all the time, man.
No, I don't think so, but Corey, it's been fun, man.
Hey, appreciate it. Roll Tide, man.
Roll
appreciate
Tide.
y'all.
That's Corey Reamer. I'm Roger Hoover. Thank you to our fans that have been here every week. They're giving us a standing
I know. I like this. We must have done something right.
Absolutely. But from Vestavia Hills, Alabama, good night and roll Tide.
What's up, guys? I'm CJ Dupree. I'm here with Crimson Tide, driven by NASCAR.
Greetings from Daytona, where year after year, greatness is the destination. So book your experience and soak in 500 miles of history and tradition. Secure your seats now at Daytona500.com.
Fun time in Vestavia Hills. Appreciate that whole crew that made it really to each and every show that we had for Crimson Tide Rewind in Vestavia Hills this season. Last night, the men's basketball team on the road in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and what a dominant showing they had and what's really been a dominant SEC ACC challenge in men's basketball. A lot of wins on the women's basketball side as well, but Alabama had one of the more notable matchups in a top 20 matchup, going on the road to the Dean Smith Center to take on the North Carolina Tar Heels. Great win for the Crimson Tide. We hear about that from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Nate Oats, plus some thoughts as well on Latrell Reitzel Jr. coming up in this edition of Coach's Checklist.
I thought our guys showed a lot of toughness, resilience. We came off a tough loss against Oregon and easily could have let that loss turn into two. But I thought they got their minds right, ready to play. I thought they executed the defensive game plan outside of transition buckets, which that's what they do best, and we didn't do a great job, particularly in the first half with it. Outside of that, in the half court, they struggled. And I thought our guys did a really good job executing the game plan. I was super happy for these two guys. Houston, unselfish enough to come off as a red shirt and come in. We were plus 12 in his 9 minutes, hit 2 threes, made some huge defensive plays, some rebounds, had a tip that kept an offensive rebound alive. And I think we got a dunk on that play. So he was great. Jaron kind of settled in and made some big threes for us. I thought he did a great job on R.J. Davis, who's not easy to guard. R.J.'s one of the best guards in the country. And, Jaron, for being a kid that's supposed to be a freshman in college this year, he came on a year early and just 19 years old. I thought did an unbelievable job on R.J. As well as Houston and Darian Reed. We tried to keep some size on Davis. He got his shots up, which we kind of knew. He was, I think he averaged 22 field goal attempts in the 2 previous games we played him. So he got 24 up tonight, but we just wanted to make him as tough as we could. And he hit some tough ones. But I thought our guys keeping some size on him, making him shoot very tough shots, I thought was pretty good. So, Coach Adams did a great job with the defensive game plan. For the most part, we took care of the ball, but late against the press and late in the first half, we weren't good with it. But we did a better job taking care of the ball over the course of probably the other 34, 35 minutes. Yeah, it's good for our league. I think, we've got a really good basketball league. It was pretty good when I got here. Auburn was coming off a Final Four. Obviously, you got great tradition. Kentucky looks great. I know they took the loss last night, but they've done a great job so far this year. You got talent across the league. So I think to play a really good league like the ACC that's got all kinds of great tradition and do it. What are we in the challenge rate right now? It's 8-1 last night, right? 10-1 right now? Just 2. So it was 10-1, 11-1, whatever it is. is great. So I think it's obviously good because once you get in January, all you play is the SEC. So you need to establish yourself as an unbelievably great league in the non-conference, because then when we're playing all those teams, those games go a long ways. So you know, even a tough loss on the road in the SEC is not really going to hurt you a lot in the committee's eyes if your league's doing this well in the non-conference. So great job by the league, you know, emphasizing basketball. Really good coaches in our league and some really good athletes. And it's tough night in, night out. You got to play. I mean, this was a great environment, but some other great environments in the SEC we got to go into and win. So it's good we're able to go into an environment like this, get a win and get some confidence playing in a tough road environment. Yeah, I texted with him a little bit this afternoon. The surgery was successful. He repaired his Achilles. His parents are in town with him. You know, our guys talked about him in the locker room after the game. He's a great kid, really good leader. You know, we're going to surround him with a lot of support and care while he recovers, and wish him speedy recovery.
Don't miss out on your chance to experience the energy and the excitement of the Great American Race. Witness history in the making and purchase your tickets today for the 2025 Daytona 500 at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com. Congratulations to Coach Oats and the Crimson Tide. We look forward to seeing them back at home for the Creighton game on Saturday, December 14th. But until then, there is some programming coming up here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Let's take a look at our upcoming schedule. Later tonight, women's basketball on the road against the California Golden Bears. Best of luck to Christy Curry and the Crimson Tide. It's already the best start in program history at 9-0. Hopefully it gets to 10-0 with a win tonight. Our radio coverage will start at 7:45 from Berkeley, California. New edition of Tide TV this week, dropping tomorrow as well on Alabama Athletics social media platforms, as well as our TV affiliates across the state. And don't forget, coming up on Monday, it will be Chris Stewart and Nate Oats starting the basketball edition of Hey Coach and the Nate Oats Show, 6 p.m. from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. We look forward to that starting before the holidays, and based on what happens Sunday, there could be a lot more programming coming up here on the network. So all the reactions to whatever news we get about Alabama and the college football playoff, you can find that on the Crimson Tide Sports Network social media platforms. Just follow us at UA_CTSN for the very latest on Alabama athletics. And that's going to wrap up this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Of course, we appreciated the time yesterday with Roman Harper, Kalen DeBoer joining us for, of course, the National Signing Day show. Corey Reamer on Crimson Tide Rewind, and then Nate Oats with Coach's Checklist. Should be back in studio, in the podcast studio, with a guest coming up next week. But we appreciate Ethan Caraman, the producer, put all this show together. Appreciate his hard work, and we thank all of you for watching. Get ready to enjoy the weekend. Who knows what the playoff selection committee is going to say on Sunday, but hopefully it's good news for the Crimson Tide, and we'll talk more about that when we return next week with this show, Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, at 2 p.m. on all CTSN social media platforms. Until next week, have a great weekend. This is Roger Hoover from Tuscaloosa saying thanks for watching, and roll Tide.